I'll go ahead and call to order. We are live on Facebook, so I'll go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of the City Council for December 15th. I think I did that backwards, but I suppose we'll survive. First order of business is invocation and pledge of allegiance. That'll be led by Councilmember Gardner.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day, Lord, and we're grateful for the opportunity to gather together tonight and conduct the people's business, Lord. Thank you for blessing this city in the way that you do, and we have this beautiful place to call home, and we just ask that we are granted a measure of wisdom this evening as we discuss and debate the city's business, Lord. We just ask that we can do the things that are in the best interest of this community and to help this community prosper, God. Thank you for all those that serve this city each and every day. And we just pray a special measure of protection on them as they are out conducting the business daily to take care of the residents here. And we're thankful for those that choose to serve the city each and every day. Thank you so much for your son and for this time that our nation and our world really comes together to reflect on the things that we've been given through your son, Jesus. And we're just so thankful for his birth and the forgiveness of our sins that we have, Lord. We ask all these things in your son's name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to special guests and announcements. Mike Hogan, come on down, please.
Good evening, everybody. I didn't realize that special guest announcements was so far up on the list. So, I'm sure some of y'all have heard, but for those who haven't, this week I turned in a letter of resignation to the mayor, and some of you know that I've moved to Greer's Ferry about 3 years ago and make an awful long drive each day, and there's been a job opportunity come along that keeps me about 15 minutes from home. It's not that the grass is greener on the other side by any means. It's trading one headache for another, so to speak. So been with the city for 22 years, and was telling everybody in staff meeting, Maumelle has been my livelihood for not just me, but my family for many years back in the Jess Odom days, and it's kind of hard to give this up. It's a lot of uncertainty at first, and I'm excited but scared all at the same time. So it's been a pleasure to serve the city, and there'll be a lot of people missed. So turning over a new leaf in life, and hopefully it goes well. So appreciate all the support that everybody has given, and yeah.
Thank you, Mike. Wish you the best.
Well, I appreciate it.
Mike, before you leave, I just want to say a couple things. A lot of folks don't really know what has gone on in public works for quite a long time. It was led basically through its inception by Robert Cogdale, who was the director. And Robert passed away suddenly and unexpectedly, and that left the department without a department head. Shortly thereafter, Joni, who was the second in command basically out there, and the office administrator, and that position left the city also, leaving a huge gap in knowledge as to what that department did. And Mike stepped up and served in that role as interim director for, I think, 2 years. And then was appointed director. And that was a learning curve unlike anything that you and I go through on a regular basis. There was no one who knew how everything worked. Mike came from street supervisor, and so he had that. And so coming in, one of the things that he really worked on was making sure that the supervisors after him were empowered as true supervisors over their department, and that it wasn't centrally sort of micromanaged at the department level. That meant first figuring out how to do it, and then helping his folks step up into that role. And so that is no easy task, and I want to thank you for stepping up when the city and the folks in the department needed you, and for your service and leadership these last number of years as director.
Well, I really appreciate that. I know going through some tough times, but I was telling the mayor the other day, I feel like I'm going out on a good note, because some of the changes in our department made our team better in a lot of different ways. Supervisors that really supported me, and still to this day, I feel that I'm leaving Public Works in good hands, so to speak. And they have supported me in a lot of different ways, and I hope that it carries on. And yeah, you know, still look forward to the growth of Maumelle, and I never thought I'd see the day that North and South Odom connected. I'm hoping, you know, I was going to get to see Millwood connect, but I guess not. So, but anyhow, kind of bittersweet, I guess, but life throws you curveballs from time to time. So, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Holt?
If you'll forgive me, this is not easy. Of my 11 years on the city council, I feel like I probably should address you as Mr. Hogan, but I feel like I know you well enough to say Mike. I am caught off guard, and I'm extremely sorry to hear you leaving, but I'm proud for you at the same time. You will be a major, major loss to us, and I wish you the very best. You have been an extraordinarily efficient supervisor. I have personally called on you a number of times. We have a lot of good supervisors, but I think that you stand out as just an extraordinary achievement, and I am grateful for the time. Forgive my broken voice, but for the time that you have put in and dedicated yourself to the city as well. And I look forward, I hope that you will have some way of hearing how you're doing along the way, and we'll be able to cheer for you as you go on your new adventure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Holt. I appreciate that. You definitely hadn't seen the last of me. That's for sure.
That's what they all say.
That's what they all say.
Lasts about 2 weeks, and then
no,
never be seen again.
It's I know Eric Holloway Engineering. You know, we go back a long ways with my dad and his dad, and I'll be closer to home, taking on just as many headaches and problems, but hopefully it'll help me out in my personal life and deal with them closer to home. But no, Maumelle holds a sweet spot in my heart, and know a lot of people out here. So I'm sure y'all see me from time to time, and I appreciate it, everybody.
Thank you. Councilmember Tierney?
Yes, like everybody else on the council, I want to thank you for your years of service. You've done an excellent job. You've always been very good to work with. And it's never too late to change your mind, but I certainly wish you the best of luck in your future.
Thank you, Mr. Tierney.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mike.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Next up is approval of the minutes. You all have a copy of the December 1st regular meeting minutes in your packet. I'll open the floor for discussion.
Make a motion to approve?
I've got a motion to approve the minutes from December 1st. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. I have 3 public comment cards that are all on an agenda item, so we will get to those when we get to the agenda item. I wanted to say that we are postponing the financial report. We hope to have it here at the first meeting in January. It is a lot easier to do financial reports when you have a finance director. And so we have opened up that position and are receiving applications as we speak. And I guess, now that I think about it, this is the first meeting since this is the first official meeting, so I guess for the record, I should announce that Anthony Armstrong, the former finance director, has resigned that position. And so we've been without a finance director for about a week and a half and are going through that process and trying to find a replacement for him. Special thanks to Beatrice Sousa, the former finance director, who came in the middle of the budget week and helped us get the budget printed out and a few corrections made to some of the reports that were generating incorrect data. With that, I'll move on to a procedural motion. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to have all ordinances and resolutions read by title only.
So moved.
I've got lots of motions and lots of seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. We'll move on to unfinished business. Just to note, the first item there that says third reading of ordinance 1159, that was actually referred back to the planning commission by the council at the last meeting, so that is not on the agenda. Which brings us to the third reading of ordinance 1160 to amend the master street plan. Morgan Maumelle area. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1160, an ordinance to amend the city's master street plan and for other purposes.
Open the floor for discussion. If there is none, I'd entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 1160.
So moved.
Second.
I've got a motion, second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none. Madam City Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Wesley? Yes. Councilmember Grunwald? Yes. Councilmember Booker?
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner?
Yes.
Councilmember Tierney?
Yes.
Councilmember Shin? I'm sorry. Councilmember Holt?
Yes.
Motion passes. Ordinance 1160 is adopted. With that, we'll move on to the third reading of ordinance 1161 to amend the master street plan for the industrial park. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1161, an ordinance to amend the city's master street plan and for other purposes.
Open the floor for discussion.
Motion to approve ordinance 1161.
I've got a motion and second to approve ordinance 1161. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none. Madam City Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Holt?
Yes.
Councilmember Tierney?
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner?
Yes.
Councilmember Booker?
Yes.
Councilmember Grunwald? Yes. Councilmember Wesley?
Motion passes. Ordinance 1161 is adopted. That brings us to the third reading of ordinance 1162. Just a heads up, the wrong version was put into the packet. Y'all been provided with the correct version on your desk. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1162, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 1145 to correct the legal description of certain lands to be annexed into the city of Maumelle and for other purposes.
Open the floor for discussion.
Motion to approve ordinance 1162.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Holt,
Yes.
Councilmember Tierney,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Booker,
Yes.
Councilmember Grunwald,
Yes.
Councilmember Wesley.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Ordinance 1162 is adopted. That brings us to new business. The first item of new business is Resolution 2025-45, approving a preliminary development plan. If I could get that read by title only, please.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled Resolution Number 2025-45, a resolution to approve a preliminary development plan for a proposed subdivision at 1100 Millwood Circle to be called Wynwood Heights Phase 1 and for other purposes.
Thank you, ma'am. Scott, can you come down and give us an introduction and overview over what this is, and then we'll get to the public comment cards, and then I'll open the floor up for council discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Scott Grummer, 550 Edgewood Drive here. So this is a development plan that came across the Planning Commission last month in November. It's a plan that includes 55 lots of townhomes just to the west of the Wynwood neighborhood, right off of Edgewood Drive. The Planning Commission approved this subdivision conditioned upon having a cul-de-sac on the eastern side where the connection to Wynwood would be, and not having a connection to Wynwood directly, and then conditioned upon no grading to begin until city council approval. The applicant is bringing it forward, wishing to appeal the conditions that were placed on that, and part of that is due to staff review after the Planning Commission. Some of that is, a letter was provided to you from the fire marshal describing the reasons why the cul-de-sac. Staff does not agree and approve of the not having that connection to Wynwood. So if you have any questions concerning the subdivision.
Thank you, Scott. I've asked the city attorney, or city attorneys volunteered to explain a little bit about a couple of the procedural issues. Mr. City Attorney? Thank you, Scott.
Yes, so Planning Commission has three options with a preliminary development plan. They can accept it or adopt it as submitted. They can adopt it with conditions, meaning that the applicant would have to make certain changes to their plan, or they can deny it. And our city code gives the applicant, if it's denied, a right to appeal that to the city council. Since this was approved with conditions, meaning approved so long as you make certain changes, I opined that it's effectively a denial as submitted, and the applicant wishes, this is their choice, to come forward before you to appeal those changes that have been recommended by the Planning Commission. So they want the application approved as submitted without the changes proposed by Planning Commission. And I understand that probably the contentious one is the cul-de-sac at the east end.
With that, and before I open up the floor for, thank you, sir, there may be questions going forward. Before I open up the floor to the council, I'd like to get to public comment cards. Mr. Nance, if you could please come down, state your name and address for the record.
David Nance, I'm at 119 Highland Point Cove. Forgive me, I've got a cold and my kids were at a swim meet all weekend, and so been yelled a little bit. I'm struggling to talk. We have, I'm at 119 Highland Point Cove. but really, I'm on the corner of Highland Point and Windwood. I'm the last house directly before this planned development. This is the fourth time we've had to come here to discuss this, and our neighbors have apparently gotten meeting fatigue at this point. There has been opposition from 4 different neighborhoods, not only from our neighborhood, Windwood, but also from Stone Ledge, from Leisurewood, and from Majestic Point. So every neighborhood around this has had people here concerned about the development as it is. I'm not opposed. It's not my place to tell a landowner that he can't develop his land. Our opposition is that there are 15 houses in our neighborhood, and this would add 55 units, which is an enormous increase. And it's a matter of greatly increased traffic. It's a matter of increased noise, a reduction in privacy. Our neighborhood's 45 years old. It's older than most of us who live there. There's a certain way of life that has come to be expected there by this point, and in such a dramatic change. I mentioned at the Planning Council, it would be as if the city of Maumelle said to North Little Rock, why don't you guys all just move here? That's the percentage increase that we're looking at in terms of what's available in our neighborhood. The appeal, I read the letter from the fire marshal, and I'm not pointing fingers. I don't know where the misinformation comes from. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but I believe that that some of what is in the letter from the fire marshal is not completely accurate in terms of the possibilities. Specifically, it says that the proposed gate, it talks about a lock and how a lock can malfunction, how electronics can go down, that kind of thing. I'm not aware of anyone who cares whether there's a gate. We brought up the example previously of the Ridgeview neighborhood, which is very close to us and has a very similar setup. Ridgeview has a single street going into the neighborhood. It then forks, it's a Y. And it has an emergency access point at the end of one of those cul-de-sacs, which, by the way, that cul-de-sac is longer than what we would be looking at here. There is a gate of sorts, but it's not a locking gate at all. And through it, there's a sidewalk. It's a big enough area that the fire trucks can pass through there if they need to, but there's no lock that stands in the way. We would be very, very happy with something like that. Our primary issues are traffic and privacy. The other issue is I have been told at times, or indirectly told at least, that trees would be planted to separate us, because again, we've backed up to the woods for 45 years, the neighborhood has. I haven't been there all that time. To now have somebody looking in my windows from 30 feet away is a big change. I have been in my house for almost 20 years, for more than 15 at least. And so that's our thing. But then we were told, well, we wanted to plant trees, but the city told us we can't, so we're going to put a 6-foot fence. A 6-foot fence is not going to give any privacy at all. Windows are above that. My eyes are above that. It's not going to do us any good. So I don't know why there's a continually changing story there. But again, the opposition, the story keeps changing. The word doesn't get out well, and our issues are the huge increase and change in life that results. Your own resolution that there is an intention to pass tonight does say that one of the city's responsibilities is ensuring the compatibility between the proposed development and surrounding areas so as to preserve and enhance the neighborhood. This certainly does not preserve the neighborhood. I think that there are ways that it could be done. I'm not opposed to the development, but I'm very opposed to the fact that they have not been willing to work with us and that they're trying to use things like a locked gate to get around what the Planning Commission, and forgive me for getting a little bit emotional about it, but the Planning Commission, they did a very good job of listening to our concerns, and I think it's very doable.
Thank you, sir. Next up, I have Mrs. Poff. Hopefully I pronounced that properly. Usually not.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. My name is Marie Poff. I live at 107 Highland Point Cove. I've lived in Maumelle for 20 years. I'm not for this development, but I understand the developer will most likely develop this land, so it's not up to me. But our neighborhood is small and quiet community of just 16 houses, and it's truly a hidden gem. So, and like Mr. Nance said, he appreciated the Planning Commission listening to us and entertaining the idea of exploring or just having one main entrance for the new neighborhood and having just emergency access to our old neighborhood. So if that separation is not maintained, the impact of our existing neighborhood will be severe. Wynwood Lane is already a very narrow street, and our neighborhood has very limited parking. So adding these 55 units, each with only one car garage, is just going to make the issue a lot worse. So cut-through traffic will also be an issue because all the Maumelle charter people are going to cut through if this is open at the Millwood to Edgewood through the Wynwood Lane. And the residents of the new development, they're not going to drive up the street to exit their neighborhood through Millwood. They're going to drive down, which is going to be more convenient through Wynwood. So this will turn our quiet dead-end street into a busy pass-through. I urge the city to protect the integrity of our existing community by keeping the old and new neighborhoods separate. A single entrance on Millwood with an emergency-only access point is a reasonable compromise that respects both current residents and future development. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, Alexander Harvey. If you could please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, I'm Alexander Harvey. I'm at 104 Highland Point Cove. And as they have stated, this was really the one compromise we were able to get related to this development. Our neighborhood is essentially a microcosm of Maumelle itself. We're a smaller community right up against a bigger community that's quiet and surrounded by trees, just like Maumelle is right up against Little Rock, and we've got plenty of trees, and once you pass into North Little Rock, the trees are gone. And I would like to preempt that in every meeting so far, after public comment, it's been brought up, oh, this lot behind us has been zoned for residential forever. That's true, but the neighborhood's existed as it does now since before Maumelle was even incorporated. This neighborhood has been like this. The land use map, the most recent one on the website, has it shown as a mix of open space and special use residential rather than single homes. And even in previous meetings, the developer has acknowledged that it's already, the development's flirting with the line of what is single resident or single family homing. There was brought up during the Planning Commission meeting the possibility of extra parking in relation to the fact that it's single garage parking with short driveways. And the developer mentioned that kind of blurs the line between, oh, is this an apartment complex or is this private residences, because there's no yards to the houses and all of that. So this development is fundamentally different from the neighborhood that already exists there. And having a fence and a gate really at least puts some kind of barrier between us and this new development that dwarfs the current neighborhood. It's not just a matter of the neighborhood wouldn't be preserved, it'd be essentially gone. We'd be an entryway to this new development rather than as a neighborhood. Our houses are all unique. They look at each other so that no one has windows looking into each other's windows. And the concern, again, with traffic and mention of, like on the Nextdoor app, there's constant complaints of people breaking into cars or just coming up to people's doors at 2:30 in the morning. We don't have that because it's inconvenient to get to our neighborhood, or if you drive into it, you have to make a 3-point turn to drive out. If we build a road through there, in addition to more access for stuff like that, both ends on Wynwood are hammer cul-de-sacs where it's just, there's not room to turn around there, so people have to make a 3-point turn up there. Or, more commonly, we see people, including delivery drivers and stuff, back down into Wynwood, which right now is not an issue. It's, no one drives down the Wynwood. But if you turn this into an access way to 55 more residences, and one that people are gonna use as shortcuts from the school and to the school, then that becomes a lot more dangerous if people wanna back through a now busy intersection because they can't make turns at the end. And I guess that's my time, so.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Before, I'll open the floor for discussion, but while we're doing that, Mr. Grummer, if you could come back up, I just wanna make sure that I understand, and that we're properly communicating what the issue is, relevant to what Mr. Thornton was saying. The, Planning Commission approved, or, gave a due pass recommendation on this, but put a condition, and one of those conditions that I'm picking up on is the, biggest point of contention is of a cul-de-sac. Is that right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
We've got the map pulled up here. Could you, explain to us as best you can, what we're talking about, or what we're looking at?
Let me go point or?
You can, it makes it hard to
Yeah,
see on
here.
video, but.
Well, so on the eastern side, you see where the Wynwood stubs to this street, which was meant to be a continuation of the street. So as part of the approval, the Planning Commission made the recommendation to provide some concessions for the residents of the neighborhood to create some separation between this development and that. You would have a cul-de-sac at where that connection would be on the eastern side. So basically, just a cul-de-sac for traffic to be able to come in and turn around and go out, and it would be a clear separation. They would still have to have an emergency access through that, which means you would have a gravel drive or something that would connect to that existing Wynwood Drive in order to create emergency access, secondary access, because of the number of units. So I think there was discussion of a gate, but I don't think the gate was really one of the primary concerns. It was more of if you create a gravel drive there for secondary access, will you still have traffic driving through there because you're not going to be allowed a gate? Will it be used for access regardless and cut through traffic? So from a staff level standpoint, it doesn't really make much sense to cut the access off. It's poor planning. I do not disagree with the residents wanting some separation. You can always achieve that with more landscaping, with narrowing the street down where the connections are made to try to reduce traffic and create a clear separation. But that's basically the concerns that we had.
Thank you. I'm probably going to call Chief Eaton up here to explain what your letter was saying as the fire marshal and just updating us.
The fire code, section 503, just says that gates on public streets are not allowed. That's a period. I can't even give you an exception to that. I was at the fire marshal conference last week. I spoke to the state fire marshal who just said, I just want to make sure I'm interpreting this correctly. And he agreed there are no gates that can be put on a public street. So, to answer some questions about the additional gates we have, not only were those neighborhoods built in, not only previous fire marshals and mayors, but it was previous fire code too. And that one, the gates that are given that you see in the city are either terrain or they're private. And that's the reason that those gates are there. Ridgeview Trail is a terrain issue. They couldn't make the connection go down to Odom, and so they were given a variance to have that emergency egress done. Again, that was long before any of us were here. In this fire code, in the current fire code, that would not even be accepted. So, whoever developed that neighborhood, if that was to be developed today, that would not be acceptable. And all the other gates that we have in the city of Maumelle are all in private neighborhoods.
So
And the
if I
separation
can,
is from the private neighborhood to the public. And again, I mean.
if I can ask, I guess the question was, this was DUPAS recommendation with the condition that a cul-de-sac be placed there, right? A cul-de-sac plus the gate. Why would you need the gate? Or why, now I'm not saying you can, but why would there be, most cul-de-sacs don't have a connection?
So by
Okay,
fire code, anything over 30 dwellings requires two ways in, or for all of the dwellings in that neighborhood to be sprinkled. Those are your only two exceptions. We have to have a fire access road into that, or they all have to be sprinkled.
okay, thank you, sir, for now, and we may have more questions. Do you have a representative of the applicant that would like to say something?
Roy Andrews, 200 KC Drive. Do represent this project coming through. One of the things, and I don't know if y'all can approve it with conditions tonight. I don't know how that process goes through. You know, typically when we have a development plan, we have to come before y'all anyway. And at that point, you have a chance to comment or make conditions or whatever. The planting trees, that's fine. I mean, we said we would do that. They don't show up on this plan because this plan was what we previously submitted to Planning Commission, and that was just passed through. But certainly would add some like arborvitaes to help screen the neighborhood, truly understand that situation. You know, there was a lot of discussion back and forth for the access. It wasn't just coming out of this subdivision, it was out of the existing subdivision, and being able to provide emergency access in both directions and get better flow through there. I do not think people from charter school will be driving through the neighborhood when they could go up a couple 100 feet and turn up Millwood, that's 4-lane, and have better access either way. I think going through the neighborhood, I'm not saying residents in the neighborhood won't go down Wynwood, but I don't see people taking a shortcut through the neighborhood necessarily. It actually slows you down to drive through a neighborhood. But
Thank you, sir. So y'all are saying that if there were, y'all are amenable to adding a buffer, but that buffer isn't shown. So my follow-up question to the city attorney, just so I understand procedurally what's going on, is this is really then just an appeal of the Planning Commission's conditions, because if it's upheld, this apparently can't go forward because it doesn't show cul-de-sac. If it is, if the appeal is, sustained, then at the very least they need to add a buffer there for trees and the like. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so if you vote yes on this, they still have to meet further staff, commissioner, and city engineer comments. And if we say a further staff comment would be a landscaping buffer like that was just described, you can approve it with that condition. Really, the crux of it, as I understand it, is Planning Commission recommended this condition. Instead of that road going through to the Wynwood Heights, to the existing neighborhood, put in a gate for emergency access and put a cul-de-sac at the east end. That's what I understand to be the crux of it. So if you vote yes on this, you're rejecting that condition. If you vote no on this, you're saying that the Planning Commission's recommendation can stand.
So what do we do in the case that we, in the case where even if the Planning Commission's recommendation's upheld, we've got the fire marshal saying that a gate can't be there? I hated being in that seat when those questions popped up.
I'm not gonna opine on the fire code. I'll defer to the fire marshal on that. If he's saying that it's not possible to put up an emergency gate there, a gate for emergency access, I trust his opinion on that.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and open the floor for discussion now. Councilmember Gardner?
Oh, thanks. Where to start? I think I'll start with Mr. Grummer, if you don't mind. I know Councilmember Tierney and we both came to this planning commission, and there was a lot of good conversation around it. One of the things that's, I guess my first question, I drove through here. I've been through here several times looking at this, even before this. It's very clearly in the existing neighborhood a stub. And from some things that I heard at the planning commission, I think Mr. Lyon mentioned this, there's some plats, old plats that show a future connection there. Is that right?
That is correct, and I believe originally they had planned for single-family detached housing in there, so what's being proposed is a little bit more denser.
True, okay. But there was, it's clear when you look at it, even on Google Maps or whatever, there's a stub there that was intended to go somewhere at some point, okay. What is the width of Windwood down there where that, on the eastern side, is it gonna match the width of Wynwood that's existing, or is it going to? Let me go back to the western end, where Wynwood comes in off of Millwood. It looks like it's wider here on the entrance. Is it going to scale down and be the exact same width as the existing portion of Wynwood? And Mr. Andrews, that may be a better question for you.
Right at the end of the existing Wynwood, it actually is narrower than the current city street requirement. It's closer to 24 and a half, 25 feet, and we build 27 right now. So
Okay.
there is a section that does narrow down. Like Mr. Grummer had stated, though, that can be used as a traffic calming opportunity, but yes, it does narrow down.
So y'all's street is going to have to meet current city code.
Correct.
Which is wider than what?
A little bit wider.
Okay. I don't think I need, well, I was gonna ask Chief Eaton, but his letter was very clear, since you're walking, Chief Eaton. I was a little, I sat during the planning commission, and I was trying to read the room of what this discussion was back and forth between, staff and the Chief Eaton, and just, it seemed an odd request to put a cul-de-sac there, and I'm just thinking through this, and I'm thinking about what fire trucks have to do. I've seen y'all's equipment turn around in my cul-de-sac.
I even said in that meeting that I didn't believe that there could be a gate there.
Right.
But I needed to check.
Yeah.
And they still put that on a condition.
Yeah.
I wanted to come up and say, what you hear is us talking after that meeting of, like, what can be done to narrow that down? And fire code allows it to get down to 20 feet, because that's how wide a gate has to be. But by our own city ordinance, it has to be a minimum of 24 feet. And I said, hey, we're fine with 24 feet. Get that down. Scott and I have worked well together. I've said this over and over again. He's taught me more about traffic control, and because, fire trucks, we get nervous when you talk about traffic control and getting our big trucks through things. But, we're willing to, we will concede to the narrow streets. We just can't have by fire code,
Sure.
Can't put a gate there.
Sure.
Cul-de-sac, I didn't understand. That's not my fight. I don't care.
Yeah.
Cul-de-sac, no offense.
Yeah.
But it's not my fight.
Yeah.
We just can't have a gate there by fire code, right?
Can I throw in a question that one of the residents brought up is is it Ridgeview that has that long, we know the one, they have a partial gate and a walking path, and then y'all are supposed to pop that up and down and reinforced path there. How does that reconcile with what you're saying?
As long as there's not a gate. So what they have there is called Grasscrete. The problem that y'all are going to run into as a city is, how do you keep a car off of that? Because they're going to drive on. If they see an opening, they're going to drive on it, because it's going to look like. So the other place that has it is mirror at Maumelle at the end of Country Club.
Right.
So we have an emergency access there that you don't see because it's grasscrete. It's an object that's put in the grass that allows the weight of our fire trucks to hold, but there's grass growing in it, so you can't see it. When that was terrain, because of the swamp behind it, they couldn't put a street back there, and we didn't want people driving back there and end up in the swamp. So we hid it in the grass. And something like that's totally acceptable.
You mean wetland?
Yes, sir. Wetland.
We don't have any swamps here.
Well, I didn't want anybody to end up in there in a car. And so that's totally acceptable even by code. But the problem you are going to have to decide is it's going to be a straight line through there. And if cars drive on there, that's, again, not my issue. I'm totally okay with that being part of the condition, but I don't know that that's going to help your traffic.
Well, thank you, Chief Eaton. You may want to keep your seat close by for somebody else, but yeah, just looking at it, I mean, it's meant to be a connection, and there was a lot of discussion amongst the planning commissioners about, and staff as well, about we're taking a public street and putting a gate on it, which. And the Chief Eaton has said that we can't do that on a public street. And there's a difference between public and private. We do have some private gates. Totally get that. I guess I'll yield at this point. I'm sure some others may have questions, but.
Thank you, sir. Is there any additional discussion? Councilmember Tierney?
Yeah, I just want to clarify what it is that we're voting on here. City Attorney Thornton mentioned about how a no vote is going to be, going with the planning recommendation for a cul-de-sac. So now, is that going to also include the gate, or are we voting on is the gate what we're voting on, or is the cul-de-sac what we're voting on?
Mr. City Attorney? Can you hit your button? Thank you.
Scott, do you remember if the emergency gate was one of the conditions? It was imposed by, or one of the conditions, yeah.
I don't quite recall the gate as being a condition. It was more of a cul-de-sac being the condition.
Cul-de-sac and then stopping the
stopping the through, the purpose of the cul-de-sac is to stop the through traffic from going into Wynwood and creating a separation between the neighborhoods. There was mention and talk of a gate to separate it out. When we did the minutes, and we were looking back on that, I didn't pick up on an actual gate being listed. Now I could be incorrect on that, but from our standpoint, and we agree with the fire marshal that a gate should not be there. Now, whether if a cul-de-sac is approved, I mean, that's here or there, but you're still gonna have an open access into Wynwood of some form for emergency access. So I guess from a planning perspective, my concern is how is that space gonna be used? Will it be driven on? Will people park there? Unknowns on that. So it's a conundrum that I'm trying to figure out how to get around. Yeah. From a
But I'm sorry, you understood the planning commission to be posing a condition that it's not as represented on the drawings of where there's a throughway.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The planning commission rejected that.
They rejected the throughway, that's correct.
Okay. And in lieu of that, they wanted a cul-de-sac.
That is correct, yes, sir.
Whether that's with a gate or with what the chief just mentioned, like they had at Mira at Maumelle. I can't remember the name you used for it.
Right, we discussed extra plantings to try to, but you couldn't plant anything in the way of that.
Right, because the fire truck has to be able to drive over it.
Through it. So of course, my suggestion is just narrowing the street down to where and maybe even approving a narrower street than what is required by the city to have a traffic calming to slow traffic down, just so that vehicles can get through there. But then if you do have it open as a through street, it wouldn't be safe to have it any narrower than 24.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mr. Tierney?
Yeah, so it's not really we're not really voting on a gate here.
We're talking more about the throughway, I
Right,
guess.
so just the question here at hand is about turning this access road into a cul-de-sac as opposed to a through road.
That's correct.
So a no vote would be keep it a cul-de-sac. A yes vote would turn it into
I suppose that depends on what the motion is. I mean, I can assume what a couple motions are, but
If a yes motion is to approve it as you see in the drawing. So the drawing shows a connection through. Right. A no vote is a cul-de-sac.
Now, and the applicant does make a valid comment that you could vote yes with additional conditions if you choose to place additional conditions on the actual development plan.
Like landscaping.
Like landscaping or a cul-de-sac.
Well, a cul-de-sac is what the planning commission imposed.
That's right. So here, so according to the code, when the planning commission provides conditions, then the applicant is supposed to make those modifications before it comes to planning commission, so you can see those conditions on the plan. Of course, they chose to come forward without those conditions being added. So you're acting on a development plan that's in front of you. So I would have to say that a yes vote would be for this particular plan, and then any additional conditions that you place on it.
Councilmember Gardner?
Sorry, you sat down, Scott. That was kind of where I was going to lead to. A yes vote is to approve what we see here.
That's correct.
Okay, but we have the ability, you think, and the city attorney thinks, to maybe limit this with some additional conditions.
Yes.
Okay, so I understand we want people to use the main entrance off of Millwood and not make this a busy through area. And I don't think it eventually would be. I mean, with it being wider at the top. So from what Chief Eaton has said, the roadway has to be a minimum of 20 feet. And our city code says we have to be a minimum of
24.
24? Do we, as the council, have the ability to say, make a motion that we approve this based on narrowing that connection down to some set number, which would limit traffic? We don't want to encourage traffic through there, but we want the ability to have the fire trucks come through. Can we make a motion like that and have a vote on that? Or does it need to go back to planning? I guess we don't get in the weeds on planning, and I don't think we should. I think I would much prefer the planning commission do that. But I thought this is my personal opinion, uneducated on planning. I thought the cul-de-sac was a strange request at the end of this development. And I understand it was to appease the local community and make sure that we were keeping traffic out. And I'm wondering if there's another way of doing that so it doesn't become, a convenient through point. So I guess I'm just left wondering what we can propose.
Can you give me a moment to speak to the applicant real quick?
Yeah.
I mean,
Can
the
you-
city attorney could probably answer that in some ways,
Yeah,
procedurally.
I think you can add conditions. Like we have this still, if you approve this resolution, it's still contingent. The approval of the application is still contingent on meeting staff comments, further commissioner comments, and city engineer comments. So if you want to narrow this to 24 feet, for example, instead of 27, where it shows the connection to be.
Yeah.
You make that a condition. Staff will incorporate that as a comment, and it'll be required by the applicant to meet it.
Okay.
That's how I envision that going. Okay. If that's the sort of condition you want, or you want landscaping, staff will incorporate that as a comment.
Okay. And my understanding was they were very agreeable to landscaping. I mean, that wasn't the issue at all. They would do that. It was access, so, and Councilmember Wesley brought up the idea of a speed table, if that's even an option. But there again, I know people, I hear residents say all the time, they wish we had a speed table at a certain point, and I'm like, careful what you ask for, because you may say you want one, and then when your house was within 4 to 6 houses of it, you absolutely hate them because of the noise they generate, the constant slowing down, speeding up. So, but anyway, that's another consideration. Did you have something else, Mr. Grummer, or?
No, I believe the applicant is willing to work with whatever the city council wishes on there. I think the main thing is wanting to keep it with the keeping of the fire code and making sure that we're not obstructing with any gates or anything as far as cul-de-sac, no cul-de-sac, speed bump, or a narrowed road. My only concern, I mean, it's something that we would need to, if you approve it with, other than a cul-de-sac, and you want to go with a narrow road, then I would place it on condition upon approval of the city engineer review of that for safety reasons and making sure that, I'm not too sure whether or not we're getting into territory of going against what, the strict requirements of our code is with the street width, so without further review. But of course, we can look at that from an internal standpoint and review it with the city engineer.
I want to talk, I have a question. One of the residents brought up an additional buffer or landscaping. Looking at the map on the screen, if we're talking about a buffer, what are we talking about? Just going between those homes that are there on the right-hand side and adding trees there, or are we talking about increasing more of like a buffer area where we're pulling that out a little bit? Then I say, what are we talking about? I guess I'm talking about it. So, is there a way to add, Eric or Representative? Y'all mentioned a buffer. Is there any way that? So, from my perspective, and I was looking at a home in this neighborhood not long ago. I didn't want the house that was for sale because the backyard was Edgewood. As that's right there. But I do and am sympathetic with homes that have been built for this amount of time and then a new development coming in. It's not abnormal for us to look at adding in a bit of a buffer to protect those who, even though it was designed for residential homes that have bought and lived there for a long time with an awesome backyard in the form of the area. What can y'all do in that regard?
Eric Holloway, 116 Timberland Trail, Maumelle. I think we've already agreed to a change to this plan when we met with staff to go to a 40-foot buffer. I wanted to say, if it indulges me just a second, the home the gentleman spoke of that's right at the corner of this, when I was 13 years old, my dad built that house, and that was one of the first houses I lived in Maumelle. Thinking of Mike Hogan being here, my dad used to have a goat roast on this property as it extends past the end of that street every year. So I met Mike Hogan 40-something years ago as we were out just having fun with one of my dad's annual events. But so it's kind of interesting to have that symmetry of this property where I first met him and be at this night. So it's bittersweet seeing him leave today. So I wanted to make some comment of that. Sorry for. But yes, we've agreed to the 40-foot buffer, opaque screening, and all the trees that we can fit in that area.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion? Councilmember Grunwald?
So here's my question. If somebody made a motion, it would have to be contingent on, like Scott said, going back to the city engineer to discuss speed bump, landscape, buffer. That seems like a lot of contingencies. And I'm just wondering if the resolution and or the plan could go back to or should go back to the planning commission and make those adjustments and then come back to the city council? Or do you think it's okay for us to make a motion for all those contingencies? It seems messy, but I defer to you. Yeah.
May I speak? Sure.
Well, I want to hear, since the question from the council member was to the city attorney, but please hop up afterward. Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, I think you can make conditions in the way that I've described. And those conditions will be incorporated as staff comments, and this resolution explicitly says that the application still has to meet staff comments, further staff comments. And these sorts of changes, as I understand it, I'm not a planning expert by any means, but this is just a preliminary development plan, so changes, subtle changes are gonna be made regardless.
So just to be clear, if we were to make a motion, it would be making a motion with contingencies or conditions?
The same thing.
Same thing.
Whichever word you prefer.
Okay. Specifically because the resolution right now lists cul-de-sac, which it sounds like we're all saying that doesn't make the most sense.
The resolution would remove the cul-de-sac requirement.
So we would make a motion to remove cul-de-sac.
You don't have to say that, no.
You don't, okay.
The resolution
because
already.
Because it's in the plan.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Anything extra you want, I would put on the record tonight.
Okay.
Mr. Holloway?
I would just add to that, two things on that. I believe any traffic calming devices would be more of a planning staff or engineering type condition that they would be the best to review. It's usually not a planning commission, even throughout the state if we go, it's not a planning commission thing, it would be more the city engineer, the type of thing they would review. If we believe that this is a good place for a traffic calming device, the type of device and how that is employed, I think is better from an engineering standpoint or a planner. And that's typically what we would see. And I would say, as the gentleman that spoke earlier, I mean, we've had 4 meetings on this. I feel like we've exhausted the time talking about this, going through a whole new planning cycle, and another meeting here, to me, just becomes almost just too much on these projects, but I leave it to you.
All right. So, Councilmember Holt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the most generous that I could be is that I would recommend that this be picked up and recommended to go back to the Planning Commission and let the members of the commission dig this out. They are qualified to understand, and we got a cul-de-sac and we've got a gate on a public street and all this kind of stuff. I don't believe that we are qualified to sit here and make this decision. It sounds to me like that this is in all due honorable respect to everybody, that it is a resident or a project that is being squeezed into an area that is not really meant for that. And we're having to have conditions in some of this and some of that. And I think that if I've understood correctly, there is opposition by residents to have it in the first place. So I don't want to vote against it. I don't understand enough about what's going on. My head is swirling. But I don't want to vote for it because I don't know exactly what we're talking about. And I trust Mr. Grummer to take his crew and go back and analyze this. We can afford to, I hope, afford a couple more weeks or whatever to look at it and bring a specific recommendation back to the council, and then let's have a look at it at that point. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Gardner?
Okay. I agree, Mr. Holt, I agree with what you're saying. We're we're not planners, and I don't think we need to make those decisions. What I'm understanding is from Mr. Grummer, what you're saying is, we can make a motion to approve and give deference to city staff and engineers on what you all deem as being appropriate for traffic calming and screening the two properties. Is that? I may be asking the city attorney that.
Can I
Yeah.
say something? So one of the things is whether this passes or fails, it's always important that we have a motion to pass in the affirmative, that if it is denied, people are voting yes to pass, no to fail. So what I've been trying to do is listen and pick up on as many cues as I could about what that motion might be. And in trying to draft this, in a reconciling-ish manner is something that approves it on the condition that there's a 40-foot buffer and some sort of city engineer-approved traffic calming on that road. And that wouldn't be us deciding, and really, that may not be best at the planning commission, that specific level of what the traffic calming device is for that area. You'd probably want the engineer to look at that and give that advice. But I think that could be generic,
right,
but provide specific guidance. The downside is if the city engineer approves a lollipop sucker in the side of the grass or something. But I don't foresee that being the case. So,
okay. Yeah, does
that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, that's where I was going with this. And then I think my next question, and Mr. City Attorney, this may be to you. So we have code that says streets have to be a certain width. If we give I understand your statement, Mayor, about making a motion in the affirmative. If we defer this to city staff and engineer on what they deem appropriate for traffic calming, does that give that doesn't necessarily give them the right to go below what code allows. So do we need to add something in there for a variance to allow them to go down to a certain width? I'm trying to figure out the same thing the mayor was saying about how to put this in the affirmative, but we also don't want to decide it at our level. We want the city staff and engineers to look at that.
So, no, they wouldn't go below code. City staff and the city engineer wouldn't go below code.
Which is 24 feet.
I understand that.
That is correct. And what I would probably suggest from traffic calming is doing some bump outs or some modifications to try to cause traffic redirection. We would probably have the engineers make suggestions on how they can modify the functionality of the street to try to slow traffic down. From a staff level, that's what we would probably be looking for.
Okay. And explain, oh, sorry, lost my mic. Time's up.
Hit the button.
Explain the 40-foot buffer. I'm trying to put my mind around that too. If we're going to make a motion of how to, they've agreed to.
They've agreed to expand that space to provide for at least 40 feet of green space with additional tree plantings that would create a natural screen between the properties. We've also, I believe, we discussed an actual physical fence, if I'm not mistaken, that would go up between the properties if there's not any already there.
So when you say 40-foot buffer, I'm looking at the edge of lot 55. From the edge of lot 55 to the property line, there would be 40 feet.
That's correct. They would have to modify this plan in order to accommodate the additional widths.
Okay. And if lot 55 couldn't even fit there, they still have to abide by 40 foot.
Right, so they have to remove that lot.
And it may be more than 40 feet at that point. Or, yeah, but we're saying a 40-foot buffer. Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now just a procedural question. So if we make a motion to approve this with specific conditions that we have set out, and it goes to city staff and engineers, and that vote fails, what happens then?
If you did a motion for a yes on the approval and that fails?
Yes.
Then At that point, then I would recommend that the applicant come back with, to city council with a revised development plan showing the conditions that were placed on it from planning commission.
Okay, and I may have been confusing, I know planning commission has some rules, when things fail, can they be brought back up or
Well,
something?
that would be a denial, and that would be an appeal, kind of what's going
Okay,
on here,
okay.
which they would be appealing, wanting this particular, plan to be approved.
Okay,
So technically, and that's what, the city attorney had mentioned, that this is falling under that, denial, per se, asking you to approve the plan as it was submitted.
okay. Mr. Holloway?
I have one thought that I want to propose to you that might kind of get us out of the box that we're in at the moment, and that is that we defer, there's 2 people missing today, to the next meeting. We revise the plan, we talk to the city engineer about how this traffic calming could be done, and then we actually show it to you, and then you can actually approve a plan that has that on it. So we're just talking about one city council meeting down the road for us to get that done. So I'd be happy to do that. I think that's not going through a whole nother cycle, but also gives you something that you could look at, that we can bring in and you can make a decision on. So if that's
I think everybody would be more comfortable.
if you're comfortable with that, I'm more than happy to make that deferral. It's probably better for me too to have
All right,
the
so
full council here.
We should make the motion then to table 2025-45 to the first reading in January. Is that enough time to?
Perfectly
Okay,
fine.
I will make that motion.
Second.
Now, everybody remember what we talked about tonight, so. First reading of, first meeting of January.
Whoa, all the lights just disappeared. There were a lot of council member lights there till then. I've got a motion to table, resolution 2025-45 to the first meeting in January. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries, and we'll do this all again next month. That concludes new business, and we'll move on to mayor's comments. Just a couple of quick things. It seems like tonight is the night of announcements. So I'd like to announce that the city of Maumelle has once again been named Best City in the Volunteer Community of the Year Awards. Last year we were named the first ever the Best City for volunteer. We applied again this year, and we were a little bit frustrated because this year there was a little bit of a cash prize that went with it. And we said, what are the odds of us getting it 2 years in a row? Pretty good, apparently. So we received that award again. So thank you to everyone for getting that in. And the reason that we received the Best City designation was due to the Community Partners Initiative. And this is the effort that unites more than 40 local organizations under municipal leadership to coordinate volunteerism, reduce overlap, and meet real community needs. It drives collaboration, creativity, and sustainable civic engagement through inclusive partnerships that strengthen Maumelle's quality of life, community spirit, and volunteer excellence. But that's not all. I'd like to also announce that the City of Maumelle received in the Trendsetter City category an honorable mention in education and workforce development for the Maumelle Charter Middle School students' C-Click Fix. So easy, a kid could do it, video tutorial, and which I think should have been a winner, but I didn't pick them. And then we won the Trendsetter City Award for Public Works, Environmental, and Green Management category for our Parks and Recreation Department's Arbor Day efforts. So that's always exciting. I love going to the Municipal League when you get to keep walking up all the time to receive awards. So that is pretty cool stuff. If you didn't know, we've started a trash truck naming contest for our sanitation department's 2 new twin trucks. Since we paid a fortune for them, we might as well go name them. You can get more information and submit your names on Facebook or maumelle.org. A few of the fun submissions from today are Stink 1 and Stink 2, Garbage Gary and Garbage Gus, Larry and Mo, and Goose and Gander. So if you have names for these, please go submit them. Just a fun way to recognize and raise awareness of the sanitation trucks and the job they do. Number 4 in mayor's comments, budget. For those that were at the last budget meeting, for those who weren't, you might have been a little bit surprised when you saw that there was no budget in this council meeting. Based on comments from that meeting, we're going to go ahead and hold a special meeting on December 29th at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. The goal is to get the budget finalized with the directives given by the council, and then get that budget published on the website like we would a council packet. I was a little bit uneasy, as were others, in just without a finance director and kind of that pressure. We didn't really want to show up with a budget resolution tonight that budget hadn't even been posted online. And so there's that. There's a couple things with that we wanted to mention. It's one of those things, as soon as we got done with that Wednesday, or that third meeting conversation, walked out, and it was brought to my attention that there was something that we talked about here at the city council that we said we were going to talk about at those meetings that we didn't discuss. And that was the economic development services contract. I had every intent, and it was on my list to bring up, but we did not. Just as a reminder, we currently pay $5,000 in economic development services to the Maumelle Area Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce came in earlier this year and was asking for approximately $50,000. I left it out of the budget so that we could talk about it on the day that we didn't talk about it, but I'd like to rebuild in something. Quite frankly, going through the budget process, the $50,000 is a very steep budget, and so I have talked about in various ways increasing from $5,000 some amount. And so I'd like to kind of open the floor for discussion and for us to kind of have that conversation a little bit here, so that I can build that into the budget. And then my goal is on the 29th, we come in, you guys have seen the budget, we've all reviewed it, and if everything is awesome, we can run out after a very short meeting. So I'll open the floor for discussion on that matter. Council member, let's see who got it in first. Grunwald.
Yeah, I tend to agree with everything you just said. So I'm a huge supporter of the Chamber of Commerce. They've done so much for the city, with the city as a partner. But to go from 5,000 up to 50,000 to me is just, I can't defend that. I can't get behind that. But I do think that there should be some sort of increase. The other added angle to this is because we're going through such a difficult budget season, trying to cut so many other areas of the budget. That was what our last meeting was about. We really struggled with that. And so I just can't support a $45,000 increase, but I do think we should increase it to something. I would maybe feel okay about 10,000. To be honest, I'm kind of torn between, for this year, keeping it the same at 5,000 because we're struggling financially, and then also increasing it so they can do more of what they're doing to 10,000. But that's just my thought.
Thank you, Councilmember Grunwald. Councilmember Wesley?
I too agree that the chamber does a lot to help bring different ideas to the city, bring excitement, and so I've been a part of all of that, and I really enjoy that. So I would have hoped that we could have at least done the, if we can, since we can't do the 50, maybe half, 25, 20, I think would be a good number. But like Councilmember Grunwald mentioned, being in such a a financial crunch, we have to be mindful of that to be responsible.
Thank you. And to give a little bit of context, I've spoken with Kelly at the chamber, and they understand also that their original ask, sometimes asks are in a vacuum, that they're not being compared to other things, and that's the value of having as many of these conversations occur during the budget process as possible. I think for those that weren't there, and to put it in context, we did this personnel employee salary study for the year, and effectively decided to take the 29 employees that are under minimums and to give them $1,000 raise, or maybe a little bit more depending on how I can wiggle that budget and stuff in accordance with the council's directives. So that comes to about $29,000, and that's giving $29,000 to the city's most under paid employees. And so now when you take that and say, this is what we're saying that we're going to make the corrective action, which doesn't, by the way, get all of those employees to where they're not underpaid minimums, that amount of money. Now, I wanted to throw that out so that we weren't again having the conversation of the Economic Development Services contract in a vacuum, right? So now that provides a little bit of a context. I had originally, before the budget was done, thought, you know what I'm probably going to recommend to the city council is about $25,000. After going through the budget, I almost thought, like, man, we got to be looking at 10 or 15. I want to talk about something else before, though, and that is what we're doing now is setting the money up in the budget for appropriation, okay? What the next step is that whatever the amount is, we go negotiate with the Maumelle Area Chamber of Commerce and say, okay, now what services additional are you going to provide? So this isn't just us determining what sort of money we're going to give them for what they're already doing. I think that if we're offering more money, the contract should include additional things. So I just want to put that out there also. I think one of the things they participated in last year was going down to ICSC in Las Vegas. That's the big retailer convention. That has costs, literal hard costs of flights, hotels. I think that when we can present ourselves to folks, not just as the city and not just as the Chamber of Commerce, but as the two working together, that I think that can send really big positive signals to the types of businesses that we're trying to attract here to Maumelle. And that costs money, and that's not a service that the Chamber has traditionally done. So I wanted to say, just put that in context, whatever that contract is, comes back to the council for the council to approve. And really at that point is in my opinion, the best point to determine whether the appropriate value is being paid. So it's not this we're figuring out how much money we can throw at them, but knowing what that number is gives me the ability to frame the discussion. Obviously, a $50,000 contract is significantly different than a $5,000 contract in so far as what we're trying to come to terms on. Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just echo what Councilmember Wesley and Gronwald said. The Chamber has been an invaluable partner the last several years especially, and a great partner with the city. I know that the city does some things and the Chamber does some things, and they both partner very well together on some things. And the events that they have put on the last several years, in combination with the city, have just been fantastic, and it's taken a step up the last several years. As we were walking into, I know the city did the Christmas deal, but as my wife and I were walking into the park, I just commented, we have had so many great events that have happened at Lake Willisteen just the last few years. So I would agree that I think our contract is sorely underpaid at $5, but I appreciate you bringing up about we are now setting up where we can go to them for a proposal of what our budget, what our budget would be, and what would you do to hit this, or maybe it's less. Maybe, you know, we set a budget for something and we don't go all the way up. I don't know, but I think, but
It's
to your,
possible,
but to your point, the ICSC costs money, and I know the chamber went out there last year and took some individuals, and that's valuable face time for them to have with companies. So I would certainly support some increase, and I don't know what that number is. It's a tough budget season, but I would support that.
Thank you. Councilmember Grunwald?
Yeah, I just wanted to make one more comment. Playing devil's advocate, always trying to look at both sides. While I certainly support the increase and support the chamber and all the, and let me just point out too, all the amazing things that they've done with 2 employees. I think that's significant and should be said. That being stated, I do recall with the presentation of this originally, I think that we were provided materials looking at other chambers and what those contract costs were. However, if I recall, because this was quite a while ago and I don't have the information in front of me, those were not all comparable cities to Maumelle. And so that's when the city goes and negotiates with the chamber, that's one thing that I do want us to look at is because I know not all cities have, they don't even pay their chamber at all. So I just want us to kind of weigh and balance that.
Thank you. So I've heard a little bit of a range to talk about, and just for those that, and a refresher on what the instructions were given to me is make certain cuts to hit a certain target. And so I've heard several different numbers ranging from staying at 5 to on up. Is there any consensus for that number that you want in there, or should I just work on things based on how the budget goes? I'd prefer y'all give me a number, because quite frankly,
I prefer
yeah.
you figure it out.
Yeah, I'd prefer you give me a number that you think I should try to fit in there. I hear 25. Is that the only thing I hear? I'm sorry. If you could just hit your microphone.
I would say 25,000. I'm looking at the list right now, and I see a lot of the things that the chamber has been a part of, and I would agree with going with half and then presenting them the half and then negotiating from there.
Okay, thank you. Thoughts, feedback, anything else? If only one person tells me, are we just going to repeat? Councilmember Grunwald.
Yeah, we're going to fight on this one. There's no way I can stand behind that, so that would be a no vote for me. That's 100% increase would be another 5,000, which would take us to 10,000. I can't, in good conscience, go to any of our other department heads with the amount of cuts that we're doing, and say, hey, we're giving, you know, a 200, 300% increase to this one department, and we're cutting yours down to bare bones. I can't do that. And also, always going back to being data-driven, I just don't have the data to support that. So for me, for this year, 100% increase is significant and what I'm comfortable with.
Next, Councilmember Booker.
Okay, so I would say, I would split that. I would say 7,500 would be it. I mean, that's what I was thinking myself anyway, at least 2,500. If we could do that.
It's at 5,000 now.
That's what I'm saying, go to 7,500.
Go to 7,500?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Gardner?
I think I would agree with Councilmember Grunwald, what she said. I think they are worth far more than 10,000 for what they do. But I would also have an issue, given the budget that we are in, increasing it substantially. I think 10,000 is a number that it seems palatable to to a number of people, but I also think we should continue to look at. I think we should continue to look at this down the road. This is a long-term question. This is not just this is not a one-year deal. And I think we should look at what kind of contract we're going to have with the chamber, what services will be provided, and if we need to increase the budget down the road for certain things because they're bringing more value, then we can do that. I think they are worth $10,000 easily. I think they're worth more than that. I don't want to say that's what they're worth. They're worth far more than that. But that would at least give us the ability to increase it in the future if they are providing services that, warrant an increase.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Tierney?
Yes, I agree with, council members Gardner and Grondwell that, the chamber does an excellent job for us. They are definitely a valuable asset. And, but at the same time, we've been cutting things for a lot of people and we've been really tight. The budget is what it is. And so I agree with the 10,000 increase. And this is something we can always look at increasing again in the future. We don't have to do it all this year.
Thank you, sir. Based on, I feel like I learned something in statistics, just enough to be dangerous, but I don't remember anything. I've got 3 people that said 10,000 seems appropriate. I've got 1 high ball at 25,000, 1 low ball at 7,500. Let's throw them out, throw 10,000 in, and call it a day. Sound good? Perfect. Last mayor's comment that I just want to say is Merry Christmas. This will be, still a mayor's comments. This will be the last meeting before Christmas, but not the last one of the year. So, with that said, that concludes mayor's comments. We'll move on to council member comments. Councilmember Booker?
That was gonna be mine. That's what I wanted to say. No, I want to say have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
I didn't know you even celebrated the holidays at all. I couldn't tell.
So everybody have a blessed New Year.
Yeah, thanks.
Outstanding. City attorney comments? City clerk treasurer comments? No. If there's nothing further, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn the city council meeting of December the 15th, 2025.
I've got a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I've got a motion, a second. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion, there was a no vote on that. But motion does pass.